dime lo que tú quieres de mi coqueta. Sé lo que te gusta es salir y se suelta. Cuando baila reggaetón pa' mí que muñeca. Le gusta salir y seducir.
Alright, we're live. Welcome back to Mescal Moments. It's your boy, the one with SkarxFace, your boy SkarxFace. And today I'm with the co-host again, John.
What up, guys? A little different setup this time for sure.
I mean, we're trying, like we were talking a little bit earlier, our setup isn't permanent.
Yeah.
Just because we're still trying to use this studio until we move over to the new spot, which is going to be hopefully better.
Yeah, we'll definitely have something set up. It's hard because every time we do something, it's either like we'll do like a Zoom call, so we have to set up everything else different, or like this is the first time we. So if you're seeing the video right now of us, it's because it worked.
Yeah,
everything went smoothly.
So everything went smoothly. Yeah. We're hoping it. Behind the scenes, it looks a little. It's a little bit of a chaos back hectic, here.
Yeah.
But anyways, this episode is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Here's that facial cream that I use all the time, and they recently sent us some deodorants. The reason they're sending us different products too, as well, is because most people, when they hear Dollar Shave Club, they mainly think hair care, skin care, or not hair care, just razors and things like that. But they have hair care, skin care, you name it. They also sent me some hair paste, but I use it. I love the stuff. It makes my face. I mean, I use other stuff also on my face, but as a moisturizer, I use this. And they recently sent us some deodorants. They sent that one. Then they sent the other one. You know how there's like two different deodorants. So we got those. So make sure you guys check them out. It's a subscription-based box that you can like throw in whatever you want. And it's cool because it's monthly and they send it to you monthly. Yeah. You can put some things on pause.
And then we were talking about the other day that you can, I know a lot of stores carry like Walgreens. If you just want to try out, they have like that little box.
If you don't want to sign up, you can buy the little travel. It's like whatever. It's
like a starter pack.
It's like a start,
depending, because they have a lot of other options. But there's like a razor and then there's like shaving cream and stuff. If you just want to try them out, that's a really good option. So you don't have to sign up.
And then also, this episode is brought to you by Chunky Chicanos.
Oh, that's
we actually watched the minting process the other day. So if you guys don't know about NFTs, it's something you guys should really get into. It's the future, crypto, NFTs, you name it. If you're not into it, I mean, a lot of people didn't like the internet too before, but now you know they say the same thing about NFTs. But trust me, NFTs are a big thing. I have a few. I know John has a few as well too. And then we partnered up with Chunky Chicanos, and they're looking really nice. Yeah. And it's just the minting process. That's where the issues are going on. But as soon as they nail those down, I think it's going to be good to go.
They're going to be a nice price range as well.
Yeah.
And then
affordable.
Affordable. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been wanting to do this episode for a while. I know we scheduled this several times, and schedules don't line up. Things happen. Life happens. We understand. But finally, we were able to sit down with Eduardo from the studio, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, we're going to get into it. Like, I had questions like about the name, about you, and of course, people tuning in, they want to know a little bit more about you. So, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Finally to be here.
And then we'll just get into it. I want people to get to know you and like where you're from. So, are you originally from Idaho?
I was born in Mexico, but I was raised here in Idaho, Eastern Idaho.
Okay, so how long were you in Mexico for?
I was only there for like a year and a half.
Okay, so you were just basically born, and then was that difficult though?
No, I mean, you don't know any different. I mean, you're a year and a half. Who remembers that, right?
Yeah. So they put you in a luggage and then
and then just said, "Let's go."
So because I would assume it would be a little bit harder with a baby. You know what I mean? Because every time I hear, luckily I was born here, so I didn't have to go through some of the things that some people have to go through, to cross the border. So I don't know how it is, and I do know some people crossed with their kids, and I'm sure that's walking in the desert.
We were talking about this last night with my family, and kind of like throwing back when everybody got here years ago, and they were like, yeah, it was way easier back then to get here. It wasn't such a big of a hassle, and I know like Jerry's family's from Guatemala, and they were talking about how big of a hassle it was to cross two borders to get here. Like I never thought about that, but there's actually like an immigration process that goes in Mexico too, that they will pull you off the bus and they will like ask you questions. If not, they will throw you back to your country.
Dang.
In Mexico, which is crazy because
they're much more cruel in Mexico.
Yeah, there's not.
Oh yeah, it's not like a slap on the wrist.
Just go out. No, a lot of them get sent into prison and things like that.
Yeah,
it's cruel for people other Latin American countries trying to cross to get here that have to go through Mexico. Yeah, it's sad.
And then
well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like it's crazy because I didn't even know that, and all my family's from there, and you would never imagine. And it's funny because just the way they were explaining it, and that was years ago. Imagine now that like it's probably harder.
I don't know if your parents ever used it towards you. They would be like, you don't know what we went through to get here. Like, but when you're a kid, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, you're here.
You're
you
here,
know?
yeah.
But then now when you get older, you appreciate it a lot more because you hear other people's stories that actually went through. Like, I know we had Belinda on the podcast and how she lost her husband, you know, trying to cross the border, which is very sad. And it still hurts her to this day.
Yeah.
Because it just broke up the family. So they brought you over. Did they bring you to Idaho?
Yeah, we came straight to Idaho. Yeah, my dad, they had already lived here in the past. And so then they decided to go to Mexico. And then I was born there. And then they were like, no, let's go back. It's much better living.
Okay, so they moved back, or they moved to Mexico. They had you, and then, I thought maybe it was like a vacation. They went, and all of a sudden would that be considered? Like,
no, they were living here and things were great, but they missed Mexico. I mean, it's not, this isn't their country.
What part are they from?
Jalisco. We're from Jalisco.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's where we're from. Sorry, John.
That's okay.
Yeah, so and not a lot of people actually around here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, I come to realize because they're like, somebody will be like, I know your dad.
Dude,
Okay.
everybody knows your family.
I'm like, okay, like I don't know you, but like, what's up? So you're here, right? So you grew up in Idaho Falls?
No, I grew up in Mud Lake.
Mud Lake, out of all places.
Yeah.
How big was that during, like, when you were growing up?
It was super small. I remember, like grade school. I mean, our classes combined were an average of like, I don't know, probably 30. Dang. An average of 30 combined. So it was, or 30 to 40. So it was like, 15 to 20 kids per class growing up. And I remember growing up until probably around the third grade, maybe fourth. I was like one of 3 Latinos in my grade.
Did you ever get any type of like hate, racism?
No, actually, no. Growing up, I mean, you're in Idaho. 2, you're in, the country. No, but you do know you're different. You do know that you are not white. You do know you are not LDS.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that alone, it can get tricky through trying to navigate through that. But no, not actual like racism or hate or anything like that directly. No.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that when we talk about, like, you instantly feel different.
Yeah, yeah.
Like growing up, because, I mean, kids, they have no filter, especially when they're super young. So like when you're like kindergarten or first grade, I've said it on the podcast before. It sucks that my mom had to tell me this right before I started school. I remember it. She's like, "Hey, you might, like, some people might treat you different just because of the way you look in your head." And I'm like,
why?
Yeah, like I'm just a regular kid, and I didn't. I said it before, but what I mean is, like, I didn't really see, because I remember there was like a Chinese kid that lived down the street, and there was I had friends who were white and things like that, and I've never felt different until I went to school.
Yeah.
Then instantly I was like,
I am different.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you're Mexican. I'm like, what? And like, yeah, I am, like, and they made it seem, because I was also the same. There was very little Hispanics in my grade too.
I remember for me, one of the things that I remember, and I didn't think of it then, but now I think about it, it was like, they'd be like, oh, so who does your dad work for? Oh. It was never like, oh, what do you do? What do your parents do? It was, who do they work for? Like, they were never on the same scale level of being like, oh yeah, so like you guys live out there, so do you have a farm? No, it was, who do they work for? Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I see it. Now I'm like, damn, like, yeah, you do realize those things, automatically too. Like, oh, you're not LDS, so you can't basically hang out with us. You can't do the same things we do and things like that. Yeah. So that's where I'm saying is, like, that's where you realize, like, oh, I am different, The skin color is an obvious one, you know, but even before school, you do realize, you're going to the bank, you're going to the grocery store, and you're like, oh, I'm like one brown kid out of all these kids, But and I'm talking again, like I'm 32 years old, so we're talking 90s. You know what I mean? The Latin community here wasn't that big.
Yeah, it wasn't. Now it's a lot bigger.
It's big, and now it's great. Now you see diversity, but back then there was not that much diversity.
Mud Lake is opposite now. I feel more Hispanics.
Yeah,
definitely. I went to Ryrie, and also I was probably like, I want to say there's like 3 or 4 Hispanics in the whole school, and I was lucky that same thing. I didn't have like the first time though was like, oh, are you Mexican? And I was like, that I didn't know what to respond because I was like the only kid. And I remember, like, I'll never forget it. I was like in third grade, and my teacher, my English teacher, he's like, "No, he's Latino," and they're like, "Oh, okay." I didn't know what to say. Like, that's probably my biggest regret in school or in life is like I wasn't like proud because I felt weird. Like I felt like the only one.
Like,
I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, I'm Mexican," blah blah blah. Now it's different. Like once I'm like, hell yeah. But before it's like I'm the only kid in this class. Like I definitely feel weird when they ask me that, and I'm like, and I don't know what to say. Like I couldn't stand up for myself and be like, yeah, because I felt weird.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I'll never forget that teacher. That's like, no, he's Latino, and it kind of like got me out of that situation because I don't know what I would have done. Probably just froze.
Yeah, it reminds me of so when we were growing up, like you said, back in the 90s and then into early 2000s when we were in high school, because I'm 33, you're 32, so we're like right there. And for the first time, like a kid transferred over from Atlanta, right? And then all of a sudden, like he showed up on sign up day and it was like the biggest spectacle because he was black. Mm-hmm. We had absolutely no black kids in our school. And so everybody was like, "Did you see the black kid? Did you see the black?" I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, like everyone was like
if you breathe different.
wanted to go and like talk to him and so imagine how he felt. And then he saw us. So he came over and he's like, "Dude, what's up with everybody?" And I'm like, "Dude, they've never seen a black person before."
Yeah.
And
Or he could have been from Oaxaca, dude.
no,
I have
he,
some dark cousins.
no, he was from Atlanta, and he instantly like things like that make you feel like you're different, like
They don't realize like, well, I'm a person of color too.
Yeah.
So just like yeah, it's just like one of those things that you're like, are you really realizing what you're saying to someone that's brown? Like,
have you not kind of like tie into that? Like, have you guys seen that lately in like high schools? Things are going on like white kids
especially
or like
Thunder Ridge.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to call you guys out, but like
Call 'em out.
I'm calling them out because they've had a lot of posts pop up of like just racism,
messed up.
like
very tone deaf. Like it's stupid. It's stupid that we're still like that's still happening, and the ignorance. And I'm sorry if you're listening and you want and you are like protecting and or giving them an excuse. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, but like there should be no reason for that kind of shit to happen anymore. Sorry, can I swear?
Oh yeah, go ahead. You can let loose.
Like those moments. But yeah, I feel like they tried to do it in a sense to be cool. Like, yeah. I'm like, it's messed up. Like I understand that we're at the age that anything you say, people will take offense. But
it's almost cool to be offensive
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some kids.
yeah,
I should say.
And it's most people make it seem like it's okay too. Like it's okay to say that, because you're speaking your mind. And
like for example, I remember that video that someone showed us at Thunder and the girls in the locker room. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was like saying some racist ass shit. I feel like the person recording it is as guilty as the person saying it because she's there, they're laughing. I'm like,
anyone who's in there involved and that's not standing up and saying something, that's just not okay.
And I mean, for like, I remember this was normal for us, but I went to Hillcrest for high school, and there's probably like 10 Hispanics in like our grade, so we were a little more, and we always hung out together. But we would go to the tech school in Bonneville, and the tech was known as like only like country kids and like. I don't want to call them rednecks, but like rednecks. And I remember this was when like Trump was trying to go, and they would like sit in the back of the little messed up Toyotas in the back and start yelling at us like, "Oh, Trump 20." Oh, I can't remember what year was it, but I think it was 2020 and some shit. And then we would like, okay, we know what you're trying to do. We find it funny because they're all like freshmen and stuff. They don't know what, and so we would pull up to them, and they're like, "Oh, just like kind of stop, like be quiet," and like trying to like get out of the situation. But I'm like. That for us wasn't as hard, but just because I feel like we've all been through something like that.
Yeah.
But when it's like a different.
It's always happening. Yeah. It's always happening.
It's kind of messed up, and I don't know. Now social media blows everything up, and everybody can see everything. Like now we're in like a time that everybody has eyes on everybody. Mm-hmm. So if you mess up or you do something like that,
and there's a camera usually around you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm glad he brought up like the whole social media thing because that was a question I had for you. It actually reminded me. Since you're growing up, we went through the whole phase of no social media.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we got like dial-up, and then we had MySpace. A lot of people don't remember MySpace.
I was never part of
it was
MySpace.
The controversy of who your top, what was it, top 6?
Whatever, because they allowed you to change it, but if you would take somebody off.
Who you picked and who was first and second and
But if you took someone off, that was like.
Was this kind of like a Snapchat used to have like your top was it top 3 best friends? And you could see
I thought it still does it. Does it not do that?
No, you can't see it. Like if I would
Only
go
I
and
can
I would
see it.
hold on, I can't remember if you click on your profile and it would show you like boom, boom, boom.
That's how a lot of people got caught.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
them shady people.
Them shady people.
I wish I would have gone through the MySpace phase. Like to be honest, like,
No, that
dude,
was cool because it's cool because we went through
We went through the beginning.
the beginning. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, how were you like in during? Because it was mainly like middle school. We didn't really have. We had like MySpace a little bit. Like, how were you like? Take us back to middle school, Eduardo.
So middle school Eduardo was a closeted, confused kid. So like I've always known I was gay, but obviously you grow up in one, Mud Lake, a small little, farm town. 2, I'm Latino. So unfortunately in our culture, it's still very like hard to come out still to this day, unfortunately. Yeah. And so it was, and I was trying to just dive through school. I'm going to a school where, let me just give you the number. In my high school, when I graduated, the student body number was like 200.
Oh wow!
dang.
Whole student body.
Yeah.
In the high school. So you're trying to navigate through a very small amount of people that you can't relate to. I never met a gay person. I never we're talking again, the 90s and 2000s, even on TV, it was still a controversial thing. So like that alone, that is a big part of my upbringing. But no, like growing up, once MySpace came, you kind of were like, it was kind of like a place where you could, before was a place you could kind of show who you were. You'd get to put the kind of colors you liked. You got to pick the music you liked. You got, so if you really want to dissect someone and be like, okay, like, who is this person? Let me look through their MySpace. You could figure out who they were. You know, I mean, most people got a clue from me. I got a little bit of Britney Spears and Thalia going through mine. But it was actually pretty. I think social media used to be fun. If I'm 100% honest with you right now, social media me da una hueva. Now, because of my job, honestly, it's and you're going to get it. It's a constant. It's a job now. Most people get to scroll through social media and it's something to lose their time in, entertainment. For people that work in social media and have to, sorry.
No, you're fine.
For someone who has to actually make a business out of it, you are consistently having to think and think and
what
think.
to post.
It's not a loser. No, when I want to not have to think, it's the TV for me. But yeah, growing up was pretty different times. I even remember when Facebook first came around. I was super excited for Facebook because it was something different. It was very different. And I was in high school. I remember it was right at the end of high school going into college when Facebook came out too. And that was kind of exciting because it was different from MySpace because MySpace was dying.
Yeah, it really was.
MySpace was big and then all of a sudden it died.
I think they were, because they were letting you do way too much with it. And it got to the point where you didn't want to go into people's profiles because it took forever to load. Yeah. Because they had a lot going on.
That's right. They had too much going on. So it was it's lower internet. So people were like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to this person's profile. They have 14 songs, and they're all going to load, Yeah. And Facebook was easy because it was, and I remember people were upset with Facebook because you couldn't do anything. You couldn't alternate anything. It was you could put a picture, you could write something, and that was it. Yeah. There was no music backgrounds, and to this day, it still is.
Yeah, yeah. I think simple is a lot better, just because it's you don't have to worry. And it turned. I mean, we'll get into that later. It turned into likes. How many likes are you getting? How many followers do you have?
That didn't matter before.
It didn't. And until I remember they put the profile view counter on your on MySpace. Yeah. I remember that they put that on there, and then I remember I was talking to this girl. She's like, "Yeah, I got 10,000 views." I was like, "So." What is it? Yeah. What does that got to do with it? You famous now or what? I feel like when they started adding things like that, like the like button, how many views you're getting, how many followers you have. Before we were just arguing about who was on your top 10, top 6, whatever. I can't remember what it was. And if you remove somebody, trust me, because I removed somebody off the top, and it was that's
what I'm telling you. If you had 3 best friends, how did you pick who was 1, 2, 3?
And that was another thing, because why is he first?
Yep, I remember that. And if you got upset with them, you were like, boom, bump you down.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, you gonna take me off the top? Boom, move
that
over.
That was the drama back then.
Yeah,
walk all mad at school. What happened?
Or it was did you see who changed her top 3? Or did you see who he put on his? Yeah.
So was it like Instagram then that you would just post pictures, you post quotes and stuff like that, or?
No picture.
Or what was the purpose of MySpace besides that?
I can't remember exactly.
It was to connect with people. It was definitely to that.
Was there a feed?
But I think a feed.
Like when someone posted something,
why would you
popped
visit
up? I can't remember.
It's been so long, dude. I don't remember.
Because I just remember going into people's profiles and seeing what they had there, but I don't remember if there was like a feed that popped up.
But the interesting thing, I think we would spend more time on our own personal, like editing it for no one to look at because it was only ourselves. Of like, you know what I mean?
This is me.
This is me. But never would I take the time to go through everyone's and be like, wow, look at all this stuff that they have going on. I never did.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I know I didn't either, but you would like curate yours to like. I remember I had like these
That's
songs have to be like
it was
LimeWire.
authentic. Yeah. God, the amount of CDs I still have.
So I asked because I saw this interview with Pauly D, and he said that he got recruited from the cast of Jersey Shore because of MySpace. So like I was like, what was he doing? Because
I remember too. There were groups or like chat rooms.
I think
and you
so.
could join, if I remember right. And so I think that's also how you got seen, because you'd be like, well, who's this? You go into their profile and you're like, oh, this person's, good looking or interesting, whatever. I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's been so
just
long.
been so freaking long.
When you sit here and actually think about it, you're like, that's why I was like, was there a feed? I don't remember if there was a feed.
I don't know.
Did they close it off? Like shut it?
No,
completely?
it still exists.
So everybody started when Facebook came out.
They bought Facebook and MySpace were the same company at the very beginning. And then Facebook came up and people just switched over. And then that's when, so like I would say us millennials were the ones that were running MySpace. Then like people that were older than us were like, well, what about for us? They didn't like it. So fake jumped onto Facebook. So then that's why it's like super congested between, I would call it boomers and millennials, because that was our era when it first came out. Then Instagram came along, and then that's when
everything.
Yeah, I wish I could remember my password to.
It's crazy because it's
my
all
MySpace.
It's all owned by the same, technically the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it is. Well, they turned it into like a music thing now. I don't even know.
MySpace did.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought you can still go into your profiles.
You can if you remember your password, but the thing is, like, I don't remember the
Can you not
password
reset
to that email.
No, that's the problem. There.
But it was like one of your first emails. Like it was like I can't remember. I think I had like Young E number 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
And what you laughing at? And then I can't remember the password because at the time you're like, no one's gonna remember this. Yeah, I don't even remember it. So that's why if you do remember your login stuff, you can still get in.
Yeah, I got into it like 5 or 7 years ago. I remember. And I was like, oh my, some of the pictures. It was the pictures for me.
That's why I wanted the pictures. I wanted to go back and get the pictures because
Can you not look up your account? Like
it's not the same. You can't look up.
If it's private, I think, because you could also set it to private. You can't go through the picture.
Oh,
it's like on Facebook when someone's or even Instagram, you can't look at it.
Dang. I need to make it. I always wanted in MySpace.
It's too late now.
Like,
You're
I want to bring it
You're
back.
gonna be by yourself.
all right. So like you get through middle school. Did you go to high school in Mud Lake?
Yep, I went to West Jefferson High School, home of the Panthers.
Home of the Panthers. So were you still going through the same issues in high school, or were you a little bit more open about it?
I was me. I definitely was me, and it was not it wasn't a what do you call it? Like it wasn't a hidden thing for people to assume I was gay. And there was a few, like, oh, you're gay, and things like that. But it was definitely something known. But never, I guess, talked about. You know what I mean? No one ever made me feel comfortable to be like, just be you, if that makes sense. People were friendly to me. I would say that I had good friends. I never had best friends. So don't get offended to those of you listening. If you tell your best friends.
This is where the MySpace thing.
Yeah. But I say that because most people that have a secret this big will at least once in their lifetime before they come out will tell someone. Someone will know. Not one person did I actually tell until I actually came out. Not one. Even though it was clear as day for people to really assume for me to be, just stereotype me. But I never told a single soul.
Would you lie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I had a few people ask me, like, are you gay? And I'd be like, no.
Did you ever, because I know some people would get like girlfriends just to make it seem like it was just for that front.
Yeah, I never did. I tried a little bit to like date, but it was hard for me because, and then again, girls were smart, and so they were like, "Dude, come on," Don't get me wrong. There are some girls that are not that smart, and no offense,
you really loved me
Years ago.
Yeah, and it was. I was very heavily high school and me, I was very involved in like after school activities like clubs and student body and things like that. Like that was totally me growing up. I was heavily involved in that. So I really was still living my true self. But when it came to like dating and all of that kind of stuff, that didn't come until after I left high school.
So, I mean, most of us kind of have a plan. Like when we're in high school, saying
none of us have a plan. We do, and
I
then
mean,
it
but, like,
switches off the wrong way.
I'm gonna go to college and do this. This is what I want to do. What did you want to do right after high school?
So I used to do photography a lot, and I actually started in my junior year. Like I took like half the senior pictures my junior year, and then my senior year I took like half of my own class's senior pictures and did their invitations and all that. And so that was my plan. I went to college for a year and realized college was not for me, and also you didn't need a photography degree to do it, But we're talking again back in the day, counselors back then would push you. Like there was nothing beyond the world other than college.
Yeah.
There was nothing else you could do. Everything else you were going to fail, So of course, because I did have an interest in doing hair, and I was so discouraged from doing anything besides going to a traditional college that I just put on the back burner. So I worked hard my senior year. I actually went to school on full scholarships.
Oh, wow.
My first year. And then I got there and I was like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah, it's a way different. At least when I went, it was a whole different world. And from high school to college.
Yeah, I like to ask that question because, I mean, when you ask that to a lot of people, and you get different answers because, like you said, you thought you were going to do photography, but right now your business is something not even like photography was, and that happens to a lot of people. So that way, like if you're listening to this and you make a decision, don't be afraid to it be a mistake. Like the worst thing you could do is not do anything at all.
It's an experience of life. I think that you need to go through that. Like I don't regret one thing of my life, even the bad, even the ugly. I don't regret it because it's a life experience, and I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't done that. I actually know that if I would have gone to school at such an early age, I probably would have quit doing hair because I was too focused in my early 20s in discovering me and dating. So like, I'm going to give you guys an example I tell people. So you guys, if people that are heterosexuals, they get to experience dating and all that very early. 13, 14, right? Well, nowadays it's like 10. But back in our day, it was like, 13, 14, you start dating, you go through all that, right? So by the time you hit your 20s, you've dated quite a bit. Like as a little kid, yes, but you still have.
Yeah.
Me, I didn't date my first person until I was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
So you have to realize like that part of my life didn't start till later in life. So I was more focused on figuring that out and being me and like, clubbing. I'm gonna be honest with you, because you'd go to. I used to go to Las Pulgas, and I'd have fun with girlfriends. But part of the reason sometimes you want to go out is to meet people and to date, and that never was something for me. So I remember the first time walking into a gay club, and I was like, "Este es mi mero mole." You know what I mean? I was like, "This is where I'm from."
Where was that at?
Boise.
In Boise? And did you go by yourself? Or?
No, I went with one of my best friends from college.
Okay.
She and I, we went together and we spent a long weekends going. I would go to Boise a lot from here. And I would go to the club because I felt free there. I felt like, that was a place I could call home because there was more people like me. There was more, and not just to date, but just like I could see how free and happy people were. You know what I mean? Like, go to a gay bar one day and you're going to see what it truly means to be yourself. Because you go to these heterosexual bars and everyone's on their game, like trying not to show their,
It's kind of so. My fiance's they're not family, but he came out of the country to come visit for a while, and we took him to Clyde's, and you could tell he was a little uncomfortable at the beginning, and he's like just not being. And then he saw a few other guys, and then he like kind of like kicked off with them, and then at the end of the night he disappeared. I'm like, where the hell did he go? Like, he doesn't know where we're at. And he came back. He's like, I made friends, like, blah, blah, blah. And he just felt comfortable. And at the end of the night, everybody was like that too. That you could tell that they were just holding themselves back, and because they didn't know who else was like accepting. And I don't know. It was a weird. Yeah. Like, it was weird for me because I was like, it kind of like, well, not even weird. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It was kind of like, everybody was weirded out at the beginning because nobody wanted to be like free, and then at the end everybody was having a good time.
And
like,
that's all of us. And honestly,
Yeah.
it's the truth. We go anywhere, and we are kind of holding ourselves
Yeah.
back because we don't want to be judged.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I remember that at that young age, I would go into the gay club, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are like, don't give two fucks about anything. Like they're just being them, and it was very freeing. And so that for me was like awesome. So going back to that, that's why I'm saying it's like I was a late bloomer. So had I gone to school so early on, I wouldn't have been focused. I wouldn't have been focused on the business. I wouldn't have cared because I was too busy trying to focus on like, I want to find love. I want to like date. I want to this because I never got the chance to in grade school, in high school, and even in college.
It's funny. I was dating this girl, and we ended up going to California once, and she wanted to go. She was mainly from California, and all her friends were out over there, and she had a lot of gay friends in there. Mm-hmm. And she asked me, she's like, "You want to go to the gay club?" I was like, "Cool." I'm going with you. I'm like, some people would have been like, "No, I'm not going there. They're gonna judge me." I was like, "All right, cool, let's go." And like I went and like I had fun. Everybody was like super cool. Nobody was like sitting there. Like once they know like you're with her, like you're there just having
their respect.
It's not a big deal. It's nothing. Like everyone's having fun. Like I'm talking to like all her friends. One of the best clubs ever, like, and we were like, I was dancing with her, and people have like a bad stigma of like, if you go, you're gonna get.
It's honestly what it is. It's homophobia. It's homophobia of like, they think that we're just gonna jump every straight guy there is, and it's like, if you only knew what we actually say, like,
you're like, that guy's ugly as fuck.
Exactly. Like I'll be honest, sometimes we're crueler than women. You know what I mean? Like we're like, no, you don't pass the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it is. I think personally, it's just homophobia from people that they just aren't open enough. You know what I mean? Like, and it's. I don't know. It's stupid that it still is in this day of age. Like, that it's still a thing. You know.
So did you? I mean, when did you officially like come out and say that you were?
I officially came out. It was June of 2009. So I was I was about to turn 19. I was 18.
And was it just more of like, when people ask, I'm going to tell them?
So how it happened was I went to college, right? So I graduated high school, went to college, met friends, and then I started seeing, like, you have to realize, I grew up in Mid Lake. I was so sheltered. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'd come to Idaho Falls, but I came to Idaho Falls to go grocery shopping once in a while to Las Pulgas. Like, I hadn't lived life. And I go to college, and then I start going out, and I start seeing, like, happily out gay people, and I was like, they're living their best life. Like, what am I doing, Had my first gay sexual experience in college, and that's when I was like, okay, this is definitely who I am. And then I just got TMI there, but it's fine. And then I moved back home, and I found myself really unhappy. I came back home from college. I was super unhappy, and I was like, it was one night. It was just a random summer night. My sister-in-law was in town, and we were sitting out on like a front porch, and I broke down. I just started bawling, and I was just like, I just can't. And I told her, I'm like, I'm gay, and she's like, I know, and she just hugged me, and she's like, it's okay. And so that was just such a powerful moment for me, because it was like just to say the words for once to someone, and you know what I mean. It was like crazy. I never said it to myself. I never said I'm gay to myself. I knew I was, but I never said it. And then I ended up telling every single family member of my family only, and my best friend from college. I never told anyone else. No one else. I didn't owe it to anybody else to have to be like, hey, I'm gay, or to anybody. Like, that was it. After that, it just was kind of known. Then it was just kind of like, if people ask, yes, I am. But I never like announced it or like anything crazy like that. Like, I just was like, this is who I am, And then it was I really came out was once people started seeing me. But when I started posting like club pictures, and I went through different like phases, again, trying to find myself. There's like a phase I tried wearing makeup and all this other stuff. And so so it was like definitely something that was very talked about, of like, oh, he did come out, or he is, you know what I mean?
How'd your parents take it?
Yeah.
Really well.
Yeah.
They always knew. The interesting thing is I didn't even say it, but my mom specifically tried talking to me about this.
Before?
Oh, yeah, many times. And I would never let her talk to me about it. I would always refuse. I'd walk away because I didn't want to talk about it. It's a scary thing because the reality was, okay, so I say it and what? Like, I can't live that kind of lifestyle and stuck in Mud Lake, I knew going to the school I went to, like, if I did come out, like, I was terrified that I was going to get my ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. So it was just a scary, scary thing. And unfortunately, I think to this day, that still is a thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I think it's like in all small
Small
communities.
communities, like, you know what I mean? And it makes me sad because there's so many kids out there that don't feel that support, and especially in our culture. Like,
Were you afraid the whole time that maybe like your family members didn't accept
yeah,
that?
oh yeah, 100%. I was afraid that they wouldn't accept it. I was afraid that the school part of it too. Like, it was a combination of everything. You know, you're just scared because it's this big. And again, we're talking 90s. You know, it's a big thing. Like, I don't. There is people coming out, and there is that, but they aren't. At that time, they weren't being seen as like heroes or being seen as like, it was just a controversy. Like when Ricky Martin came out, it wasn't a good for him. He, you know, like good for like, you know, standing up. No, it was a controversy. Guess who came out?
Yeah, I remember that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it was just a controversy. It was never anything like good for him. We're proud of him. Yeah, there were people that were, but the media made it.
Yeah, the
frenzy.
headlines was not.
It was not a positive thing.
Yeah.
So what does that do to somebody who's, you know, 12 years old? I can never come out. Like, look how they're like eating him alive. You know what I mean?
Or they also experience, which also I had a question about that. They'll experience like seeing somebody else who, you know, is openly gay. Something happened to them, you know, just because I've seen the videos all the time where someone gets beat up just because either they could be fat, they could be gay, they could be just whatever. They just get bullied.
Who they are, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever run into some of these issues like along the way, and how did you handle those?
I would say I did maybe twice in my life. Well, the first time, it was in high school. There was a stupid thing in high school where the kids two people wanted to like fight box, and we'd go to like these like fairgrounds, and everybody would just watch, like the dumbest thing. And so
I was involved in those fights.
Well, I thought they were dumb.
No, I mean, we were dumb little kids.
You know, they wanted, and so one kid wanted to do that with me. And everyone expected me just to be like, okay. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. Like, no. And they're like, no, you have to. And like, he says you have to. And I was like, no. Like, why would I do that? Like, why am I going to submit myself to something that I'm not going to do? And I was proud of myself for standing my ground.
Yeah.
You know? And I didn't know it was just because he thought I was gay. He wanted to beat me up. And so, you know, everyone went to the fairgrounds at lunch hour. I didn't go. I stayed in the school. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to go get my ass kicked. Like, why? You know? And then the second time was exactly what you said. It was, we were going into the Shiloh. I was with some girlfriends. We were going into the Shiloh, and there were some, you know, some macho güeritos walking out of the Shiloh. And I definitely was dressed very feminine at that moment. At that time, I was trying to figure out who I was. Mm-hmm. And once we crossed, and as we were walking away, they started yelling slurs like fucking queer and this and that. And my girlfriends immediately like became leonas. Like, they were just yelling back. I froze. I did not know. I've never experienced that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do. And they were like yelling slurs back at them. You know what I mean? Like, no one ever stopped. They never came back because obviously they were women. But they kept walking off, and I remember like that freaked me out. And I remember after that, I also stopped dressing that way to the club. Because I was like, no, I'm not putting myself through that. And it's such a proud moment. Like, for me now in 2022, just recently, you know, I was in Dallas, and we went to this club, you know, and I was just so proud to see how many like guys like were just happy to be themselves in heels with a purse. Like, they're still dressed like a man, but they had heels on. And I was like, man, how crazy like times have changed in literally about 10, 15 years. Yeah. You know, like, I could genuinely say that my generation of gay people have helped pave that a little bit to help them be able to go into a club without you know, there's always is going to be a fear of like assholes that are, you know, but for the most part, you know, they would have probably most of the people defending them.
And the media too, and it has turned that way too, like you said. I remember Ricky Martin thing. It was kind of like, and then especially when he had kids, that was big. Like,
that was big. Like he's gonna abuse them, this and that. You know, like all these crazy things. And it's like.
But now it's. I don't want to like. It's more normalized. You know, like everything in general is more normalized. You don't, like you said. It's like you can see a lot more of that.
Acceptance. You see more acceptance now. You know, and I want to get to a place where I don't have to say it's an acceptance. I want to say it's just normal. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, if you see a person like that, like, you don't think like, oh, good for them for being. No, it's just like, okay, they're here. You know what I mean?
What is your stand on like someone that's very young and because you hear stories about that a lot, like
and not just that. Unfortunately, like when they're too afraid to come out on.
Like,
They
what would
end
I say? You mean?
did it help you wait until you were older?
No. I think if you have, and I actually have had these conversations with many clients who have asked me for advice because their children have either said or they feel could be gay. And my best advice is let them be who they are. That's it. You don't have to push anything. You don't have to push. Do you like boys? No, you don't need to do that. They will figure that out. That's none of your business either. Like, but let them be who they are, because especially in machista culture, no te pongas eso, pareces vieja, things like that.
Yeah.
That is what pushes us down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That is what degrades us down to want to keep hiding and keep hiding. If I can honestly pinpoint, and I actually did this about a year ago, I pinpointed because someone close to me came out. And she's really young, and she was 11. And I was like, what? How do you know when you're 11?
Yeah.
And then it hit me. I was like, okay, let me think and this is a funny story. I thought of the first moment I can think of as early as possible of how I knew. And I thought back to the novela Mariela del Barrio. Thalia. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's an actor's name is Fernando Colunga. I remember being a kid and having the biggest crush on him. And so I looked at that when that movie aired in the States around the same time. It was 96, 97. That means I was 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
But if you really think back that far, yeah, you're not having sexual thoughts, but you definitely already have those thoughts of I'm attracted to the other sex or the same sex. That's how early. I also thought back to grade school. I'm like, I remember in the second grade having crushes on boys. Obviously, it was hidden.
Yeah.
But I remember that early. So I was like, no, it's not crazy for an 11-year-old to come out, in a sense, because I remember having these thoughts way younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my thing is if your kid asks you to buy them pink shorts, buy them pink shorts. If the little girl wants you to buy her something that we as a society say it's for a boy, let her have it. You know what I mean? Why are we pushing so hard for people to have to be who they are? You know what I mean? And it's not for everyone to understand. You know what I mean? I don't understand a person who is bi, because I'm not attracted to women at all. And so I don't know what it's like to be attracted to a woman and to be attracted to a man. So I will never judge and or talk about it because that's not me. I will never understand it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I will never understand a person who is transgender because I feel confident in who I am and who I'm going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you talk about that, and hopefully, there's parents who listen to this and obviously have kids, just because it's true, especially in the Hispanic community. If you grab a doll, when you're playing as a kid, right away it's put that down. That's for girls, and you're like, oh shit. So the more you do this to the child, the more they're gonna hold in, especially if they have feelings like that.
That starts trauma early. That's trauma from such an early age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even when it comes to I've learned this recently, even in skin, even in our culture, in our skin color, you know what I mean? Like tú estás bien prieto. It becomes a complex.
Yeah.
That once you're getting older, I remember growing up being like, I don't want to be in the sun because I don't want to get too dark. Do you remember back in the day, we would always, because who were we around? A bunch of white kids. So we always felt inferior because our skin would get dark.
Especially in the summer.
Exactly. We'd come back and we'd be all super dark.
Even darker, yeah.
And so we need to stop doing, we think it's funny or we think it's just we're messing around. But when you're doing it to a mind that is developing and barely growing, you're actually really is causing some damage.
Yeah, and it makes sense for especially these kids who grow up and like I said, they get told no, you can't do this, no, you can't wear that. But so they just start holding everything in, and then eventually you hear these kids, they end up committing suicide just because they're holding all this stuff in. They don't know what to do with it because
they don't feel acceptance from their own family.
So if they don't feel who can I go to?
Who can I go to?
And they get tired of just going through that, and then all of a sudden, you hear this kid committed suicide. Just it's
so sad, how common right now it is. How common kids trying to commit suicide, and for that or different reasons, just because they feel they're not being accepted. You know what I mean? And it's if you don't like it, you don't accept it, just shut the hell up.
Yeah,
don't have to speak about it. You don't have to address it. Just remove yourself and that's it. Live your own life. You know what I mean? You have no reason to butt into it. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it.
So, I mean, I'm glad we touched on that topic, just because, there is a lot of people who, have questions and are maybe going through the similar situation. But I mean, you're doing a lot of big things right now, and I want to get into that. So, about what age did you decide to go to hair school?
Hair school. So I call myself a late bloomer. I actually was 26. I was 26 when I went to hair school. I was living in Arizona, in Phoenix specifically, and I kept bouncing from job to job. I had done a really good job through the workforce of just working and doing great and excelling and everything. But I'd hit points to where I honestly got bored. It's like, that's it. That's as far as I get.
Yeah.
I want to, I'll never own this company. So I'm going to be capped out at some point. And so then I knew I didn't want to go back to school. I already, and especially, after that many years, can you imagine how hard that would be? To try to you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was living in Arizona. I got a job at a hair school. I already worked here at Austin Cade doing marketing, and I had done their tours. Okay. So I already had done that. I went and got a job in Arizona doing the same thing, but I did it for a really shitty school. And I remember, and I cannot sell something if I don't believe in it, and I couldn't sell this school. So then I started, trying to look for a different job, and so I got a interview at Paul Mitchell and the School of Phoenix, and holy cow, that is this beautiful school. It's imagine a school on the river, and all one side of it is all windows. Oh, and so as you're working on clients or your dolls, you're literally watching the river.
Have an amazing view.
And and it was just a beautiful school alone. I was just and you could see the passion, and I was like, I don't want to be the one touring, trying to sell them on this dream. I want to be the one doing it, So, because I worked for the school, they were very gracious to me, and Tyler and Allison, they gave me a scholarship to be able to go to school and not have to pay as much. So I moved back home, and I went to school, and I remember I told myself, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this. This isn't hopefully this works out for me. No, yo me puse las pilas. I came home, and I sacrificed a couple of years of anything. I went to school full time and worked full time. That was my life, Yeah. And it took me about a year to graduate, a little under a year, because I would stay really late for school. I was at school at 8 in the morning, and I'd leave at 10, 11 at night.
Oh, dang.
Between school and work, because I worked for the school still. So I was doing both. And then so I was 26.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on all those things, because one thing that I like to do with the podcast is I like to bring light into what you go through in order to get to where you're at, because they'll see you with your own studio now, and or hair salon, I meant, and they'll think it was easy. It was just one day you decided to, hey, I'm gonna do this today, and it just like that. They don't take into account the years of sacrifice you had to make in order to learn the trade, and just get better, because even now I'm sure you're still getting better. Still learning, you
never stop learning. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's people that are I know everything, I'm good. No, that's when you cap out.
That's your cap out. Yeah.
But there's always things to learn, always especially with all the different hairs, all the different products that come out, because I know some hairstylists, and they tell me oh, this does this, but if you have this type of hair, you have to use this. And I'm like, dang, it's
the knowledge is endless when it comes to, the world of hairstyling and barbering and cosmetology, barbering, everything in general, aesthetics. It is a massive world, and I'm going to jump off the subject for 2 seconds. It's just kind of with what happened just recently, which we're not going to get into a very lengthy thing because I think it's annoying, the Will Smith thing, with the alopecia. What Jada has, alopecia, that I get why that is such a sensitive subject. A lot of people are exagero. No, you don't know until either a man will, or anybody will know if you are balding. But man, alopecia, when you were losing chunks of your hair in certain areas, that is hard.
As a woman.
In a society where you are a woman because of part of it is your hair.
I get come. Sorry, I just spaced my thought, but tell me if I'm wrong. Even when women decide they have long hair, and then pop, they chop it off. Society's kind of what's
why is
going
it so
on?
short?
Yeah,
but not even society and themselves. I actually, if a woman comes into me and they want to cut their hair off, if their hair is long, I have to analyze their behavior and everything before I actually commit to cutting it, because I have seen what it does to their self-esteem. If a woman comes in and she's like, so I've been thinking, and that's one trigger word. They probably shouldn't be saying these things because they're going to come in and know my tricks.
Yeah.
But if they're like, I've been thinking about cutting it, immediately that's a no for me. I'm like, okay, that means you didn't think long enough.
Yeah.
Because hair doesn't grow in a month.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It takes years.
Yeah, because I started growing my hair back in October because I'm trying to go from the
Que
Jason
no,
Momoa look,
ratonero.
but it's
Right?
a process. Yeah.
And so imagine for a woman when they go and chop their hair off, like whether it's a pixie or a bob,
Yeah.
and their hair's up almost, to their back. And so, yeah, it's a process. If a woman walks in and she's got pictures ready to go and she's like, I can't wait, I want you to cut my hair. I'm like, you've thought about this.
Yeah.
You know what you want. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that the reason I brought that out was because it is a very sensitive thing that people don't think. And so we've learned so much. It is a lot of like, it's not just what we go in school and learn on how to make it look pretty. It is also beyond that. You are helping people with their self-esteem. You're helping people like sometimes like rebuild them. They come into you broken, whether a situation happened, and this is what they're looking forward to. This is what they can have control over, that they're like, let me change this. You know what I mean? Like, let me do something like this. Like for some people, it's working out. It's transforming their body. They go through a breakup. What do? They hit the gym and they're like, let me transform. For some people, it's their hair. For some people, it's their skin. For some people, it's whatever,
Yeah, my dad used to buzz cut my hair, and I hated haircuts.
I used to get bowl cuts.
Dude,
Hispanic moms, they're gonna cut
Listen,
your
we
hair.
went through the trauma of our. We didn't have barbers. We didn't have fades.
You got lucky.
I remember my dad's like, "Te voy a meter el uno," and then the 2 on top. I'm like, I hated it. I'm like, why can't you leave it long? He's like, no, it doesn't look good. I'm like, and I hated getting haircuts. Like, I hated, like, that was the worst thing ever
Right?
for me, was getting haircuts. And now,
Just the
like,
thought of it,
yeah,
yeah.
just
I mean, I also wanted to ask him, since he brought it up, since it happened so recently.
Yeah.
What did you agree with Will Smith? Or
I
did
don't
you?
condone violence. Number one, I don't. I don't think that was the right thing for him to do. And we could sit and analyze the video forever. I think he could have handled it a very easy way. I also don't think it was a situation where he needed to jump up like that. I think if somebody would have swung at his wife, okay, defend your wife, right? Yeah. He made a joke. It was in poor taste. He could have then, when the cameras went off, been like, dude, that was not cool.
Yeah.
Like, you need to watch what you say. You know what I mean? He could have totally done that. That's my personal opinion. And I say that again because I get the sensitivity to it with Jada. But also, Jada's a powerful woman. Like, she, and I'm not saying that she's, Wonder Woman either, that she has no feelings. But at the end of the day, she's very powerful. So Will's making her look a little weak sometimes.
Yeah.
In that sense. Because it's like, you're supposed to be empowering and making these women feel strong, but yet you're letting your man jump up and knock someone out.
I thought it was fake.
At first it is.
I was like,
until he starts yelling.
Yeah. And
then you're like, oh.
Ooh, okay. You're not.
You're not
I don't know
kidding.
what to do. He's the Eduardo Yanez of our times.
Yeah, because I you know how when you see something, when something starts trending, right?
Yeah.
I remember with the whole George Floyd thing, like you start seeing the name and you really don't pay attention. I kept seeing like Will Smith, and I'm like, oh, not paying attention to it. And then like Chris Rock gets punched by Will Smith, and I'm like, what? And I watched the video, and it kind of feels like it's a joke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At the very beginning of it, yeah.
Like he just slaps him, and then like he goes back because he smiles. You can
Will
see the
smiles,
smirk.
and then Jada turns, and she looks, and she's not happy.
Yeah.
They switch the camera, and then he must have looked at her and looked how unhappy she was, and then that's when he, I think, saw red. I don't know.
Yeah, because
But
he went up,
like,
he
why?
slapped him, and then when he turned around, if you watch it closely, he even smirks like he's kind of like like he smiled or something. So that's why I'm like,
It was confusing.
yeah, this is a joke. And then Chris Rock didn't react to it. It was more of a joke for him. And so you're like, oh, this is like a whole skit.
Until he yells at him.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, you're being serious.
Yeah.
he must have not like connected good, because if not, he would have like.
no,
But
swing
he,
like that.
he didn't look to punch, though. It looked just like a slap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
slam.
but I mean, if it would have like connected good,
Yeah.
because you can kind of see he kind of leaned, and he kind of like, when he saw it, was like, oh, he kind of swerved.
There is a video going around, and they're shot again. Like we could go on for hours, and there's he's got his Chris Rock puts his hand in his face.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
But he holds himself. He
Yeah.
doesn't do anything. He doesn't react.
He's like, you're way taller than me. And I also read something, and I don't know if it's like true or not, but the joke had more meaning to it than the hair. because G.I. Jane supposedly the character, I don't know whoever played it, also like cheated on her man or something like that. I've never seen the movie.
I've never seen the movie.
And so I don't know how true it is, but I read something about it that the joke was not about the hair, but about the
situation.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
But then it would have triggered Will Smith.
Right. But it could have been one of those moments that just over the head, you know? It's funny, but
I don't think it was publicized only because look at everything he had to lose, and he is losing.
You started working at a local salon, didn't you?
Yeah. So I worked for a salon first for 4 years. Generation Salon. I worked there for 4 years. I assisted the owner for 6 months, and then I jumped up on my own, and then built a clientele. And then my best friend Tiffany by Design, she and we decided, it was with COVID too. Like things were just hard. Like at the time, there was a lot of still unknown, the vaccines and everything. So we just felt it would be safer for us to move somewhere smaller too, where our clients would feel safer. Yeah. And it was just time. It was just time for a change. Everything
was that your goal? Like when you first got into, because some people get used to just working for somebody.
Yeah.
Like which is cool. Don't get me wrong. Like if
which I wasn't working for anybody. So what I was doing was booth renting.
Okay.
So basically, I still was working. I made my own hours. I just had to pay booth rent. We just shared everything that was a common area, which was like the shampoo bowls and the bathrooms, and we shared all those things.
How does that work with like clients though? Since the place is already established, does it come with clients?
No, you build your clientele. And like for me, building my clientele was about 80% social media, and 20% was like word of mouth and things like that. But like 80% was social media, and especially Facebook for me at the beginning.
I think that's like a big booster now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
sure.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. Like, you have to be on social media in order to. If you have a business and you're not on social media and not taking advantage of those
it's free marketing
platforms, and like, but it does become a job.
Oh, it does become a job, and it becomes a job that's like I'm in a rut right now. Like, if you go through my Instagram right now, you're like, why are you not active? But I'm in a rut. I'm just like, I got to a point where I'm like, I'm so over having to like be on and do things, and I just wanted to live life for a minute. But I know I need to get back on it. I'm going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it can take a toll on you too. And like, just know that like, if you're starting a business, like it's fun and it's exciting and you need to do it, you know what I mean? But it's powerful thing you can do, to have all your platforms and be active and be, showcasing a little bit of everything. I will be honest. Like, part of the reason I think my success comes with my social media isn't just my hair world, it's my personal world, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't see that until I kind of disappeared for a minute, and I had a lot of like, are you alive? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here.
And I mean, so you're working at Generation Salon, and then you get together, you said with Tiffany.
With Tiffany, yep.
How was that? Like, were you nervous? Like, you're like, oh shit, like now I'm gonna start something on my own. Like,
I wasn't. You know why? Because in my industry, and you'll kind of get this, it's like you're going through it now. You're just moving from this studio to the next. You're just changing where you do your work. Same for me. It was just changing where I do my work. Luckily for me, how I built my clientele, it's very different. So, kind of funny. So, like, Tiffany graduated school, I think she said, she's going to kill me if I say this wrong, I think like 15 years ago. So, she did hair very different times. Okay. So, for her, it was giving out cards, phone books, things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And people and then at that time too, it was a lot of like, hey, can someone do my hair today? Calling salons. Yeah, come on over, right? Now we're in an era where who does your hair? Or let me look for a hairstylist on Instagram.
Oh, my girl, all the time.
That's what we're at now. Now it's not a walk-in. There still are, but now it's not a walk-in. And that salon was established and they didn't have a walk-in clientele. So when I went to work there, I had to work my ass off to find clients. And how did I do it? Through social media, through all that. So because I built my business as Styled by Eduardo, not through Generations, I was able to move all my clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was able, it wasn't like, oh, are they going to follow you? It was like, oh, now we're at this location.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
That's good that you say that, because you talk about that. You talk to me about that, of creating something that doesn't link you with something. Like you said, you didn't put Eduardo a lot with it, or you work there and
it was an establishment that helped me have a place to create my art, which was awesome. But at the end of the day, people were coming for the artist, which was me.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what I was basically telling him. Like, you need to, because he does a lot of video. And I was like, you need to have like a name, like a brand, like brand yourself.
Brand yourself.
And that way, because like it's cool. Like he helps me. This is this and that. I could be like, no, everything has to be with me. But I'm like, no, because everybody like who follows me knows me for my stuff. I want people to follow you and know you for your stuff. That way, like you can go and do your own things. Like you don't have to be like, do we got a gig or anything like that? You know, so something like I'm trying to help him build his own like his name too.
Right. And then there's different people, you know, some people do like having a place where they get their clients, like a commission salon. They like having to go there, and they don't have to have their name on the door. They don't have to have their name at, you know what I mean? They can come in, look at a list and say, I have to do, you know, 5 clients today, and then they can go home, and that's awesome for them. You know what I mean? For me, that wasn't it. For me, I wanted to be able to have control of my work and my life and everything. And then it comes with discipline and balance. Yeah. Because I also know people who do have that control, and unfortunately, they're not as successful because they don't know how to balance it all out. You know.
So, when exactly did you open up the new studio?
The studio we opened in November of 2020. So it'll be 2 years. Yeah.
So a little bit right after the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Were you nervous at all about that? Or
I was nervous in the sense. You know what I'm most nervous, and still to this day, what I'm nervous about is the repercussions of COVID and everything that's happened. That's what I'm worried about, and not necessarily. And it's mostly what it is like if we go back to 2008, something like that. You know what I mean? Where like, you know, people have to cut back, and I will get it. You know what I mean? And that's what the scary part is because you're on your own, and you know, bills don't stop, rent don't stop. You know, that's what mostly makes me nervous is because people will have to cut back, and getting your hair done is a luxury for people. You know what I mean? Like when they come to me, it is a luxury, and that's probably for me what is the scary part of it. But after COVID, it was scary because you just don't know what's happening. It's like
everything's so weird.
Everything's so weird now. Yeah.
And it's funny because we go back before the pandemic, like everything that normal that we knew then is non-existent.
Non-existent.
We could probably come close, but it's not going to happen.
It will never be the same. And it's interesting how much it's changing, you know, and the thing is for some of us who are already like a little bit older, for us, it's been a change of like life, and it's taken a toll on us, like to get used to what this new lifestyle is. But for some people that were in between like stages of life, like from a teenager to an adult or from high school into college, like this is their normal. They're like, this is what life is. You know what I mean? For us, we're like, no, this is not what life is.
So trust me, we don't want this anymore.
We're trapped.
Yeah, you know, but we gotta take it as it is and do the best with it, and you know, not sit and sulk in it and cry about it, and just go with it.
You got to learn how to adapt. That's how you're gonna get ahead in this world. Yeah, that's how you're gonna thrive. You have to learn if something changes, you have to learn how to change with it. Like if the way people do their hair, like if you don't learn the new way, you're gonna fall behind. You're gonna fall behind. So like that goes in any industry. Like things always change. And so like if you not want to learn new techniques, adapt to the new thing, you're gonna be left behind, and you're not gonna grow. And if you're comfortable doing that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Everyone has their own goals. So say someone is looking to get into, you know, also wants to be a stylist. What tips would you give them, like helping like build their clientele now, and like also what they need to do in order to become, you know, successful, have their own shop, or if that's their goal?
The number one thing, if you're going to go to school, or have just graduated, or even already working, is if there's no passion, it's just not going to go anywhere. I've learned that 1,000%. Make sure if you're not passionate, then it's maybe this isn't for you. But if you are passionate, it's gonna follow. And it gets frustrating because you know, the struggle of having to find clients at the very beginning is hard, and it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to just be like, this is too hard. I'm just gonna go back to a 9-to-5, or I'm gonna go back to, you know what I mean? But it's just not giving up. I mean, I worked 2 to 3 jobs my first 3 years of doing hair. It wasn't like I just was doing hair and that was it. No, you know, I went to school and I worked 2 jobs. I graduated, and so then I was an assistant. I was doing my own clients, and then I was still working for the school, right? And then once I was done assisting, then it was just doing hair behind the chair and working for the school. And I did that for still 2 more years. So I had still 2 jobs, you know? So don't be scared to have to work a lot. Because listen, the thing is I think we're so used to in a society where we've worked and that's it. That's all we have to do. And if we want a little part-time job, then that comes with it. You know what I mean? But we won't work as hard when it's our own business.
Yeah.
You know, we're too scared to like sacrifice so much of our life. You know what I mean? Like I am, for the first time in 5 years that I've been doing hair, I'm going to finally take Saturdays off this summer.
Oh, wow.
I haven't done that for 5 years. You know, I've worked Saturdays my entire last 5 years of my career, but I'm finally to a point where I'm like, no, I want to enjoy this summer. You know, we have such short summers, you know, and I'm a very flexible person. Like, so if you're listening, I still will work late weekend or late evenings, early mornings. Like I'll get them in, but I want to have the weekend off, you know?
Yeah. You got to remember at the end of the day, you're a person too that likes to
and most people are. It's just, I think, again, it comes back to what we're used to.
Yeah.
We were used to, what day do you get your hair done? On the weekend. So people were always going towards that Saturday appointment, you know? But anyways, going back to that, the other thing too is social media. And not just posting and not just being active. Unfortunately, you got to pay for it too sometimes. I paid for about 2.5, maybe 3 years of ads on Facebook and then a little bit on Instagram. Like, it's crazy how I'm more popular now, I would say, like, and active through Instagram now. But at the beginning of my career, it was all Facebook. It was hard to build on Instagram at the beginning. And like, it was like, I mean, you had to like almost like beg people to like want to like look at your stuff at the beginning. But through Facebook, it was easier, you know? And so I'd post my work, I'd promote it to get pushed through. And that's how I built my business through Facebook. A lot of people don't realize that it was like a major part of the beginning boost of my career. And then it follows, you know? For me, like a stylist, if you're already working, the biggest thing you need to do is make sure your clients actually do everything looks good. Because at the end of the day, they're your walking billboard. I can't tell you, the best feeling for me is when I get a new client and I say, so how'd you find me? It's great when they say, oh, I found you through Instagram or so-and-so told me about you. But when they say, oh, I saw a girl at Walmart and asked her who did her hair. That is the best compliment for me. Because that means my work is speaking for itself out on the streets.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad when people come on here so they can explain like what they went through, because everyone or most people think it's easy. You know, if being an entrepreneur, like having your own business isn't your thing, because it's not everyone's thing. Like I said all the time.
Seems like it's harder.
Yeah, like
It is harder.
Yeah.
And it's harder.
oh, it's a 24/7 job. It's not
In
a
all aspects of it. Like I just did my taxes. I wanted to crawl in the bed and cry, because it's like, seriously, dude. Like, you want me to be a business owner, but man, am I screwed over? And being single, and you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of crazy. Those kind
you
of
get
things.
punished for being single.
You get punished for
like,
wanting to open up a business.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy.
It's actually like I like to see that our generation is more like, oh, I don't want to work for someone, I work for myself, and you end up working a lot harder. And then like I think it makes like a good generation that's coming up.
Yeah.
Because I do hear it a lot now. This generation that's coming up, they're lazy, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of people that are like at least my parents didn't ever think about opening a business because they like to play it safe.
They play it safe.
Yeah. And then the younger generation, they're like, I don't want to do the same thing my parents were doing. And I think it's a good step forward for all of us, at least. Just make everybody work harder, even though it's not easier in any shape, way, or form. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's something that's common with everybody, and I like to share people's stories like that, because you get to see like not just the journey of life you had to go through, but like in order to open your business, before you even could open the business, what you had to go through. People don't see all the late nights, all the like
behind the scenes.
They don't see none of that.
They get to see the fun part and the after, you know, but they don't have to see the days that you're like, you get home and your feet are killing you and you're like, I just worked 12 hours and tomorrow I work 12 more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
and just like, especially when you have your own business too, like going through like I mentioned earlier, it's a 24/7 job. You have to get on social media. You have to do this. Like eventually, hopefully, most companies now are realizing that they need to hire somebody just for social media, just to respond, comment, reach out to people, because all that networking gets you more clients.
And if that's where you're at, congratulations, because that is an awesome place to be. Yeah.
Being at that spot, that's why
hard.
I always go, because yes, unfortunately, I miss people's messages and stuff like that just because I'm busy doing something, and then I'm like, I forgot to get back to you.
Yeah.
And now I'm debating if I want to pay somebody to. I know I need to
You're probably like me. You have control issues.
Yeah, because I always
You
feel
want
like
to be authentic.
yeah, and I was like, is someone really gonna care about this baby as much as I do?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's hard
no
to
one
find
will,
because
but you will find good people.
Yeah.
Who will be passionate like you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why like it took me a while to find somebody. That's why I'm glad I found John. He loves doing podcasting. He loves
awesome.
talking and getting to know people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people see this and they'll think it's easy. It's easy to talk to people. It's easy to have a conversation. But it's not.
No.
It's hard. I remember when I first started, even like talking on a pod or a camera or anything like that. I was nervous. I was. It's
a different, very different world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. But it's fun. I love it. But again, dude, we've already gone for like an hour. I know we can get in way more into it, but let people know where they can follow you at.
Awesome. So I'm on Instagram, not Snapchat, TikTok, and Facebook. I'm like, wait.
MySpace.
Under Styled by Eduardo, Eduardo. Yeah, reach out to me. I promise I'll get out of this social media funk and get back to making TikTok. People like my TikToks. I don't know why. I like to
TikTok's where it's
recreate
at.
things. I know, right?
That's the thing. You have to be on everything for now.
You do.
And so that's what a conversation I was actually going to have with John today about TikTok for the podcast. But we'll talk about that later. But I've seen his work. Amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hopefully later on, when I get my hair all long, maybe he can do something to it.
You're back to the troll mode.
Well, I'm telling you,
Troll vibes
people
that you
think
got.
I'm not. I'm
Show
going
me
for that
your- show me
Jason
your-
Momoa look. No,
I know
I'm
what
not
you're.
gonna put
I
on
know what
that.
you're going for. I can see it right now. Actually, I saw it in a picture the other day. You posted, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I know where you're going."
Ándale, enséñale tus greñas.
No, because we're on camera, and right now, like I take the hat off,
That's
and
the
it's gonna
point. Yeah, well, you're gonna get braids and everything done.
No, I'm gonna do something cool when it comes out. But
Yeah.
I think the hardest part is those
The
uncomfortable.
grow out.
Yeah, because you go through a phase where you can't do anything with it. It just like sticks out everywhere.
I
And
can't
so
deal with the sideburns, and then I grow hair like on my neck. and
that's why I get
can't-
it cleaned up.
Yeah,
I get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that.
And especially, I think it should be out by the time this podcast. No, I can't talk about that yet. Anyways, that I'll talk about that in the next podcast. I'll tell you after off camera. But again, thank you for coming on. I
Awesome.
appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Go follow him. He does amazing work. If you guys are in the Southeast Idaho, but if you want to pay him, he'll probably travel too. So,
Right.
there's.
Lucky G, if you're here,
But again, thank you for coming on. We enjoyed this podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And you guys listening, we'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys. Say bye.
Tú siempre fuiste la coqueta. Dime lo que tú quieres de mi coqueta. Sé lo que te gusta es salir y se suelta. Cuando baila reggaetón pa' mí que muñeca. Le gusta salir y seducir.